place this evening, one on Commonwealth Games, team selection appeals for athletes and coaches. And I would guess that that is attracting quite a lot of interest. But thank you for taking time out in your busy schedules to join us. We only have an hour, slightly under an hour, and these bi-monthly webinars are subject specific. As I say, tonight is coaching, and it's an opportunity for us to provide some updates from England athletics and UK athletics, but also to discuss the subject matter through Q&A. Now, for those individuals who have joined us before, you will know that at the start, Joe and I will go through a bit of an update from UKA and England athletics, a general update. And then tonight we have Martin Rush, Head of Coaching and Athlete Development at England Athletics, and Mark Munro, Development Director at UKA, to provide some detail specific to coaching. So we'll crack on. There are the four individuals. You actually have a couple of individuals on the chat box there, on the delegate list from England Athletics, who will also perhaps type in one or two pieces of information during the hour. There is a chat box facility, as mentioned. If you wanted to put questions in there, you can do. And Emma Davenport from England Athletics is going to be looking at that very closely. So we're going to cover those four areas tonight before we get into Q&A. Next slide, please. A bit of an update from England Athletics. We are due to launch, I think, the back end of this week. James Webb is on the call here. He's our communications manager. Our strategic plan for 2021 onwards, which will reflect our roles and responsibilities as an organisation in delivering our part towards the UK-wide strategy, Athletics Unified. And I know Joe will update on the UKA strategic plan that they're working up as well shortly. Outdoor competitions are being planned or have started. We've licensed just under 300 competitions across England thus far, which we're delighted with. And it seems like the sport is getting back to some sort of normality in a track and field sense. Thank you to everything that you're doing as coaches, as club volunteers, to support our athletes during this time. We are delivering our qualification program online and face-to-face now as well. Those courses have started face-to-face across the country in specific locations. Please visit athleticshub.co.uk to find out which course is running in your local area. Clubs and facilities. We ran a club, we opened round one of our club and facility support fund before Christmas. We funded over 100 clubs through that process. We then went live with round two. We've been inundated with applications. We're going through those at this moment in time. It looks like the interest has surpassed the amount of investment that's available in this round. So we're looking at those options at this moment in time. But it's a great situation to be in. And we hope that that funding will support clubs as they make this return from COVID. And also we funded a number of national, regional and local competition providers to help them return in full strength as we bounce back from COVID this summer. We're running a number of virtual challenges competitions, and our resources remain on the England Athletics website that you'll be aware of. Those resources we developed through the Safe for the Distance and At Home platforms of the England Athletics website. And you'll know that there are club coaching and athlete development resources there as well. We're currently in the midst of recruiting a new chair for the England Athletics Board. Myra Nimmo stands down this year. That is being led by a nominations committee, and that is a process that's currently running through. Hopefully we'll have someone in place during the next month or so. And also the new 9 England regional councils are in place. They met during April. The National Council met at the back end of April and elected its chair, Julian Starkey from Bracknell, and the 2 representative directors to serve on the England Athletics Board, one of whom is Julian, the second is Janice Kaufman from Gateshead Harriers. We, as I mentioned, are hosting a Commonwealth Games webinar tonight for athletes and coaches, which no doubt will be very popular. The selection policy, appeals policy went out a couple of months back, and we've now made a statement today about our team size, including para. 2021 England Athletics Hall of Fame will take place on the 23rd of October at the NEC Hilton, we hope, and the Regional Volunteer Awards programme will kick off in the coming period, and that's going to be run virtually again as it did in 2020. So that's a bit of an update from England Athletics. Happy to take any questions at the back end of the session. Over to Joe.
Thanks, Chris. Rather similar to what England have been going through, we're obviously writing our plan that supports the Athletics Unified strategy. We've consulted with several focus groups that have had people from the whole of the athletics community on board. We've taken what those focus groups have said and we've built them into webinars. We've had our first webinar, our second one is next week. We would love as many people as possible to join those. And some of the news that's coming through on the themes that we asked the webinars about. We're looking at our discipline-specific approach to how we look at the sport, and we have 98% agreement of that. We also asked things about what our name should be, and 70% of the people that we polled thought we should be UKA. From a coaching perspective, 100% of those that were on the webinars agreed that a new UK-wide coaching strategy is a high priority. 91% of the people that we spoke to believe that we should develop a hub structure. So there's some real support for the themes that you'll all be seeing that come through our plan. From a Diamond League perspective, you've probably all seen the news, and I suppose it's old news now, that on May the 23rd, we stepped in to host the Rabat's Diamond League as Morocco were unable to host that event. We were delighted to step in because obviously it gave about 40 British athletes the opportunity to compete against some of the best in the world rather than the 10 that normally would have travelled internationally. It obviously also keeps our athletes really safe, and it's a great opportunity for them to prepare for Tokyo. You may also have seen in the news some discussions around the London Stadium and us hosting the Diamond League at the London Stadium. Those negotiations are still ongoing, but we can absolutely confirm that the outcome will be the best for the sport, and we're working really hard on that. But either way, there will be a Diamond League on July the 13th. And at that Diamond League, we will be launching our UKA plan that we hope to live stream, as well as invite people, hopefully in person if COVID allows. From a Tokyo preparation point of view, obviously there's been more competition, and we're delighted that 66 individual athletes have achieved qualification standards, and all 5 of the relay teams have qualified. Anybody that watched the World Relays at the weekend, we came home with 1 bronze medal, and that was the first time we'd actually won a medal in that event since 2015. So really just a quick update there. Most of the stuff that we're working on is about writing the plan for the next 12 years and preparing athletes for Tokyo. We're working very closely with the BOA and the BPA on what the playbooks look like for Tokyo. So those are the big themes that we're working on at the moment.
Many thanks, Jo. Opportunity for questions for Jo later if you have them. Just to recap again, I know some individuals on the call will be familiar with this chart. We put it up each time to try and illustrate our respective roles and responsibilities. As part of the framework agreement we signed over 12 months ago, we will review these roles and responsibilities at the end of that year, which is going to start as a process at the back end of this summer. We are very much the affiliation and member body in England. We are responsible for the delivery in the context of coaching officials and leadership education courses and qualifications. We also support tutor training and obviously employ and deploy them to deliver those courses. Whereas, of course, UK Athletics in the context of coaching are responsible as the qualification body, the licensing body, the quality assurance body in coaching, and also help to coordinate working with the home country's coaching strategy so that we're aligned and we're joined up. Of course, from time to time, there will be grey areas, but we work and we collaborate to ensure that it's as clear as possible. So that kind of relationship replicates itself in other areas of work as well. And of course, just to give a plug for the rules of competition consultation that is live at this moment in time with the 2022 domestic competition rulebook in mind. UKA leads that process, so your club, your organisation should be aware of that. And I think the closing date for submissions is July, and UK Athletics coordinates that process for the Sport Pan UK as one of the many functions that it provides, alongside areas like, of course, safeguarding, anti-doping, major events, and so on and so forth. So there you go. Sorry to repeat for those that have been part of these sessions before. Next slide, please. Okay, Athletics Unified is the strategy that we mentioned before that we signed off in 2020. Just to recap, for those on the call that haven't read Athletics Unified, it's a long-term, high-level strategic plan to drive forward the sport through to 2032. And of course, we then, as our respective organisations, as we mentioned already, develop our strategic plans reflective of our roles and responsibilities to make the best use of the resources, the people, the money that we have to make an impact towards this document. And there are 3 goals. Next slide, please. I know this quite well now. There are 3 goals. And in the context of coaching, coaching runs like a golden thread through each one of those 3 goals. We need great coaching to produce great athletes. We need, of course, great coaches to enable our athletes to compete for their clubs in competitions and to obviously motivate athletes of all abilities, all backgrounds to stay in the sport, get involved in the sport and stay in the sport, of course. So those 3 goals, coaching is fundamental to delivering success in those areas. Next slide, please. And you'll see there are 9 priorities within Athletics Unified, one of which is coaching. But again, like many of the 9 priorities, they are interlinked. They're dependent on one another. And tonight's webinar, of course, focuses on that bottom middle one, coaches. Next slide, please. Okay, so just to recap on what I've just said about how we work together as home countries in the context of tonight, England Athletics and British Athletics, name being reviewed, as Joe said just now. We work together on a UK-wide coaching strategy, which Mark Munro is leading on, will talk us through in a short while. A UK-wide review of qualifications on a regular basis. We check and challenge ourselves to make sure those qualifications are fit for purpose, and there's work going on there that Mark will talk us through. And of course, as I said, UKA leads the production of content and the qualification framework, the licensing process, quality assures it as well. And of course, EA then is responsible for delivering the qualifications and of course non-qualification based support, webinars, conferences, forums, and so on and so forth, as Martin will talk us through very shortly in detail. And we support, train and deploy the tutor workforce. Next slide, please. So in the context of coaching, we need breadth, we need depth, and we need diversity. I think there are roughly around 30,000 coaches that are qualified and licensed, athletics coaches, assistants, leaders of all abilities, all backgrounds across the country. And we need great breadth, depth, and diversity. We always need more. And of course, we need a clear pathway for coaches to develop whatever their aspiration or role in the sport, whatever ability of athlete that they're working with, and a clear curriculum of delivery that supports the long-term athlete development pathway. We need to provide fun, engaging, inclusive programs and resources to deliver this program, and Martin and Mark will no doubt touch on that. And of course, we need to appeal to coaches of all ages, backgrounds, abilities, but also athletes, of course, who might want to transition from athletes onto being coaches and leaders as well. And of course, parents. And we need to use the insights that we get from people undertaking our courses and being part of that program to ensure that their voice is heard in shaping the ongoing review of strategy. So that's how we work together in the area of coaching. And I am now going to hand over, I think, next slide, to Martin Rush. And apologies about the magnifying glass that we haven't provided you with to be able to see that pathway, but that is readily available on the England Athletics website, on the UKA website, Athletics Hub website. And Martin's just going to talk us through it so he can explain it in succinct form. This is the track and field pathway. Over to you, Martin, and I'll shut up.
Thank you very much, Chris. Yeah, apologies for the type size, but as Chris said, you can go on the website, England Athletics website, go under coaching, and this is freely available, as is the next one, the off-track slide. Down the left-hand side, ignoring the England Athletics flag, you've got the qualification pathway. So leading athletics, coaching assistant, athletics coach, and then the 4 separate disciplines, event, group, qualification. And what we've said over the last, I think it's now 8, certainly 6 years, obviously the qualification pathway has to be partnered, if you like, with ongoing coaching development, ongoing coaching support. So coaches can continue their journey, learn through being mentored by others, learn through going along to some of the coach and athlete development days that we put on, as well as some more formalized education. And that's, say, the Movement Skills 1, Movement Skills 2, and physical preparation support courses that we put on. So although the development work on the right-hand side isn't a direct part of the license to become a coach, it is fundamental, we believe, to actually support coaches, engage with coaches, retain coaches, and obviously help coaches develop their athletes alongside the qualification pathway that we work with UK Athletics on. So that is, on the track and field side, is mirrored by the off-track slide, which looks pretty similar, except slightly less tiers of qualification. So you can start there with the leadership in running fitness, go on to the coach in running fitness, and then from there transition through into the event group endurance qualification, that third tier of qualification. And the reason this was originally done was we recognized, in terms of just the number of coaches and that specialist area of supporting our participation runners, the leadership in running, it was vitally important that we had a separate pathway for people to follow to become licensed, so that they didn't want to go down the really technical route of the on-track pathway. But similarly, we provide a parallel pathway of ongoing coach development, so leadership courses, the movement skills preparation courses, and run leader development workshops, which have been incredibly successful and continue to be successful both online, and we may be putting those back face-to-face, but we are definitely doing things like track nights, which is a program of activities that we'll put on where we support running clubs and club run, where we support, running clubs with club run and track and field clubs with track nights. Next slide. So in terms of detail, if you like, overview of what we do. So EA organizes and delivers coaching qualifications and non-qualification based support to coaches, the two sides of those slides. 30,000 licensed coaches, assistants, and leaders. And yes, we've got far more on the leadership side than we have on the higher level coaching side. And that's obviously something that we're continually trying to push to make people go either from the leaders up into the coaching, running, fitness side, or develop with our clubs the depth and breadth of coaches that we have in those technical events. More than 5,000 individuals going through our coaching qualification programs per year. LERF, the most popular course. We have this online webinars, forums, networking, and conferences across all the event groups to support the activity that's been going on. I think we're currently running at nearly 30,000 registrations on the webinars since the beginning of the first lockdown. England Athletics, nigh on 20,000 separate individual coaches signed up for those webinars. And we've learned as England Athletics that obviously we can engage, we can connect with far more people than we thought possible through just our face-to-face delivery. So absolutely, we'll continue with that. It'll be a blended program of online webinars, online coaching qualifications. We've learned that we can do that as well. Measuring the effectiveness of those is really important, but also making sure that we don't move too far away from what coaching obviously is, which is a face-to-face activity. So it's really important that we continue with some of our coach and athlete development camp activity as well. We have the event group leads in place to oversee this coaching. So that's one in each of the event groups, but also a youth technical lead as well. We'll come on to those names. And also they work strongly with UK Athletics in the talent space, making sure that those athletes who are aspiring to greater things, better things, international teams, have that really good grounding. They're picked up from the clubs, they're put into programs, but of course they're encouraged to take that information back into the clubs and the coaches that they come with. If they're identified onto a talent pathway, obviously develop those skills, and then they take that back into the clubs so that there's an all-round development aspect of the coaches and athletes that come onto those talent programs. So we work across the home countries and UK Athletics on the coaching strategy. Mark will go into that in detail. We support the coaching qualifications revisions that generally take place, and we are working with UK Athletics looking at obviously the particular needs for the different event groups and different ages of the coaching pathway. Next slide. So just in terms of practical delivery, this is currently our, if you like, delivery offer. So I'll start at the top of this. So the national level coaching activity, essentially we run in each event group 2 national camps where we pull together high level coaches and athletes. Currently it's got a bit of a Commonwealth Games focus for England Athletics, but we make sure that we're bringing those higher level athletes and those coaches together to share the best knowledge, to support each other, and make sure that any information that we have is spread out through those. In parallel with that, we have national masterclasses, we have national conferences, and tied alongside, I guess it's slightly lower age group, the Youth Coach Development Program also runs national conferences, but it's targeted obviously at those slightly younger age group athletes and the coaches working with them. All of that material, certainly the webinars, the coaching material delivered at conferences, we record and we push that out through Athletics Hub for every single coach to be able to access. So any material at those national days, the higher level material is put on Athletics Hub so that coaches at any level can actually access it. Lower down the pathway, we have the regional coaching activity. So that has operated as coach and athlete regional days. We've done much more connectivity, if you like, through webinars and our regional coach lead network. That's 18 contracted coaches in the different event groups, roughly 4 in each event group. There's 6 in speed. And they organize some practical activities face-to-face when they can, and obviously do webinars and are available for regional local coaches to make contact with. And they support the club support managers in delivering club run and track nights directly to clubs as part of our club offer. We've mentioned the Athletics Hub, 217 webinars, 18,000 attendees, something like 30,000 registrations, all material edited for Athletics Hub. And then finally, our delivery, the talent pathway. So recognizing 16, 17 years old, athletes are identified, come onto the youth talent program with their coaches. And there's a curriculum now wrapped around the coaches on that youth talent program. 2 years on that, they progress on to the junior talent program, 3 years on the junior talent program, a parallel coach and athlete development pathway, and then they progress onto the senior, which, as I said, is focused more on Commonwealth Games delivery at the moment. Next slide. And this is the workforce, if you like, the coach and athlete development team and the education team. I won't run through the names. I'll just let you scan down them. But at the bottom, we've got the event group leads, and at the top and in the middle, the education delivery, qualification delivery individuals who support all the qualifications that are run across the country. Next slide, Emma. And those are 2 key addresses. You can go direct, typing that into as a URL to englandathletics.org coaching. All this information is available on the website, and Athletics Hub, one-time sign in, and you can access all the material that we produce through Athletics Hub, courses and qualifications, and all the webinars and ongoing coaching development material.
Thank you, Martin. Going to hand over to Mark now, Development Director for UKA. Great to see you, Mark, and the floor is yours.
Thanks, Chris, and thanks, Martin, for that update as well. And it certainly cut across a number of these areas as well. So I thought it'd be useful just to give you a bit of an update on the coaching strategy work so far, and also touch upon some of the key or recurring themes that are coming out of some of that work so far as well. So just in terms of the coaching strategy, it was certainly agreed within the work around Athletics Unified and the framework agreement and the discussions that fall out of that we should have a coaching strategy. Within the framework agreement, and Chris touched on those working groups within some of the slides earlier on, there is obviously a coaching working group. That working group is made up of representatives from the 4 home country coaching leads, UK Athletics, and we're in the process of appointing 2 external experts from the coaching community onto that working group as well. UK Athletics are also appointing a head of coaching development, plus 1 or 2 other roles around some of that work as well, just to provide that oversight and that leadership around the strategy work and supporting the work across the home countries as well. So we should be in a position in the next couple of weeks to announce who the new head of coaching development will be, which is very positive. Obviously now we've started that work around the coaching strategy, particularly around the consultation piece, and everyone should have received, every licensed coach should have received a survey over the past 3 or 4 weeks, and that survey closed about a week ago. We had a pretty good response to that, and we're now in the process of analysing results over the next few weeks as well. That's going to be followed up towards the end of May and certainly into June around some focus groups, just to kind of give us a bit more depth around some of those some of those themes, some of those challenges, and also an opportunity to discuss anything we hadn't thought of and just delve a little bit deeper into some of those ideas as well. But it's hugely important that everyone has an opportunity to feed into that process as well. An area that we obviously have to follow through and work up on as well is that desk-based analysis of looking at coaching trends, looking at athlete participation trends, and really, you know, Martin talked about the 30,000 licensed coaches as well. We need to break that down and look at that within, you know, the various disciplines and the context around that as well. So how many of those coaches are active? What levels are active? Where are they active on a geographical basis? What's the diversity of our coaching workforce? And really get into that detail. So that can help us inform a lot of the decisions we take within the strategy work and the work moving forward as well. Again, it's been mentioned regularly as well, just around that event-specific approach and making sure that we have that event-specific approach within the coaching strategies as well. And certainly something I've got on the next slide is a theme that is recurring, is certainly that obviously within the qualifications framework we currently have, there's nothing around event-specific development. We need to have very clear strategies on how we develop certain events and how we develop coaches. So how many coaches do we need around working across certain events and event groups? Where do we need them? And how do we provide that support and education around that as well? So that's a massive piece of work, but hugely critical to ensure we deliver against goal 1, 2, and 3 within Athletics Unified. Again, there's a commitment. Again, it's another theme that's come through, and Martin's touched on that, but certainly to review, work with the home countries to review the current qualifications offering. We're well aware, there's no point in hiding from this, that they have never been completed in the sense they do not go above event group, which is a set of online modules just now. We have nothing around event-specific development for coaches in terms of the qualifications. We have nothing around talent, performance. We don't have anything around club coaches working predominantly with children. So there are gaps within that framework, and there's an absolute commitment and priority to review that as well as looking at that CPD offering and making sure we're consistent across the home countries as well. We need to improve our communication, and I'm talking about UK athletics here as well, just in terms of, you know, how we discuss, how we provide that opportunity for coaches, the voice of coaching as well, and making sure that we value coaches, and it's the same with other roles as well within the sport. But you know, we don't value coaches in terms of our communication. We aren't putting coaches on pedestals as role models regularly enough. So there's a whole lot to do around that communications plan and strategy as well. And then again, anything else that falls out of the consultation process will certainly be considered that's relevant within the strategy and any programs or projects that we develop beyond that as well. So there's lots happening. We're in the midst. The next month is going to be full of consultation with the focus groups and analysing the survey results and looking at desk-based analysis. So we would hope to be in a position by certainly August, early September, to have the draft, or certainly the final draft of the coaching strategy. And I should say there's been a lot of work going on with the home countries in UK over the last 12 months around that, and Martin has been heavily involved in that as well as a number of others from across those home countries. So we can move on to the next slide, please. Just in terms of some of the consultation work that's been done before, and Joe touched on some of this, there's been some UK focus groups and webinars around the UK plans. We've obviously had the surveys completed. We've had a bit of a glance at some of that information, but obviously analysing it in great depth. Now we're moving to the focus groups as well over the coming weeks. But some of the, I guess, the recurring themes within that, first one is very much around the coaching strategy as a priority and having a UK-wide oversight and leadership of what coaching looks like across the UK. There's lots of great work going on, and Martin's covered a lot of that great work going on within England. But if we look across the home countries, again, there's lots of good work, but it's also quite inconsistent, and sometimes that comes down to, it could be strategic priorities, it can be financial resource, people resource, expertise. So again, we need to have that broad oversight of what that looks like across the UK, and the coaching strategy should be, I guess, a linchpin within that as well. Again, the value of the coaching role, the importance of coaches and coaching to athletics should not be undervalued at all, and we need to celebrate our coaches more. We need to put them on pedestals, I've said. They are role models. We should promote them as role models. and we also need to improve our communication to the coaching workforce as well. I mentioned the qualifications already. We're well aware that they are limited. They have never been completed since those original changes started some sort of 10, 12 years ago. There's been, again, really good feedback just around some of the discussions around developing skilled coaches at each stage of the pathway based on the coaching role, and taking that approach forward, which is good, because that's where the discussions have been with the home countries over the last 12 months. So again, looking at education or qualifications around the club coach, the children's expert coach, the youth expert coach, working around event group development, event specialists. Obviously, our current system doesn't even touch on event specialists just now, and education around talent and performance coaching as well. And again, Martin's alluded to the success around some of the off-track, the leadership and running fitness, the coaching running fitness courses, but it's important that we continue to develop off-track courses and also make sure there's a clear pathway for coaches working in the area of para athletics as well, because again, there's some bolt-ons, but there's not a clear pathway within para coaching. So it's absolutely fundamental we correct that and make sure that's there as an opportunity. Another common theme has been mentoring, whether that's formal mentoring through qualifications or formal CPD, or whether that's informal. And again, that's looked at, is that where that's the NGB's role, whether that's UK or the 4 home countries, or whether how that's delivered locally at a club or in smaller groups or across a number of clubs as well. But it's certainly been a recurring theme within the discussions we've had so far. And I know England has obviously done some good work in the past around mentoring and what that looks like. So again, it'll no doubt form a key feature of the new strategy as well. I've mentioned event-specific strategies, but because we've had that gap in provision around the education, there's been CPD that stepped into that gap. But actually, we need to look at strategies that addresses the gaps or the lack of coaches in certain events and event groups. If we're going to deliver on Goal 1, for example, that talks about representation in every event by 2032, we need to know where are the gaps, how many coaches do we need, what support do coaches need, how do we progress coaches through the pathway. So there's lots of work to do around that as well. Coach's voice, how do we ensure that coaches have a voice and can feed into the system, as well as UK and the home countries communicating back out more regularly. So again, that's something that should be in there, and we can look at what's appropriate and how do we do that effectively. And another one that's come up is looking at professional and regulated standards for coaching beyond just the kind of qualifications. So and again, should there be a chartered association for coaches as well? So again, these are all things that are coming through in some of the early conversations. We'll analyse the survey, we'll follow up those focus groups as well. And but these are certainly things that will no doubt be included within the strategy going forward. So that's all from me. I'm happy to take any questions, Chris or Martin. So.
Thank you very much, both. Very informative and detailed, and good luck with all the work you're doing. We have a couple of questions that have come in. First from Mike Harris. How will you appoint the 2 external members onto the working groups? That was mentioned. Mark, do you want to take that?
Yeah, I guess we've had those discussions with the CEO forum. So we're currently looking at what type of roles or expertise do we require within that working group to help us move forward and inform the coaching strategy work and delivery across the home country. So we're looking at that just now, and we'll look at what those appointments need to be.
I guess opportunity there, Mike, as well, just to offer your thoughts on what it should look like as well. So always welcome feedback on that, please. Another question there from Mick. Hi Mick, can't see you, but hi. Will you consider fast track education for former international athletes? I know there is some stuff going on here, but Martin?
Yeah, sure. There is actually it's not a fast track course, I would call it, but there is an opportunity or pathway for ex-former international athletes to get into the coaching pathway and get a qualification. So it's I'd use the word intensive course at the moment. It runs irregularly, but details are on the UK Athletics website, and you can see all that information on there. So absolutely, what we don't want to do is obviously fast track people through who and therefore they don't have the skills and competencies. Absolutely, former international athletes bring a particular set of skills and competencies to the coaching area, but there's maybe some areas that actually they need development on as well. So an intensive course, yes, it's in place and it's on the UK Athletics website.
To that, Mark.
Yeah, Chris, just to add to that as well, Martin's absolutely right. And there's been some work that's gone on in the past. I also think when we're looking at the new learning development framework, we also need to look at that kind of the recognition of prior learning as well, and we need to look at how people enter, I guess, the more formal education as well. Because if we're looking at a role-based approach, you know, the traditional model of coming in at kind of assistant, working your way through, might not be the right way to progress through the coaching pathway as well. So we do need to look at where coaches want to be coaching within those roles, and what prior knowledge do they have to I guess enter a certain point. So these are all things that we are looking at. I guess it's never easy to do that, but we have to, I guess we always have to think about what's the right thing to do for coaches and how do we best support coaches, and that's certainly the approach we're all taking to the work within the coaching strategy and the new learning development framework.
Thanks both. Got another question here from Mick. Any plans to review and improve teacher education courses? But for those who aren't aware, we currently have a primary and a secondary course. I believe Scott Grace, our youth development lead, led on the development of those courses UK-wide. Question marks certainly in England around uptake for those courses, and whether we need to be better at marketing, communicating those courses. Content-wise, a lot of them are based on the run, jump, throw model, certainly with a lot of fun, introductory games and activities, and of course aligned then to the athlete development pathway, of course, of which Athletics 365 plays a big part. So anything to add there, Mark and Martin, starting with Mark?
Yeah, I think, again, one of the working groups that sits within under Athletics Unified within the new framework agreement is the development working group. So we have one for officials, coaches, one for development as well. And this one probably falls between coaching and development, but there is certainly, there will be a review of what that offering looks like for teachers, and whether that's education, but also it'll move into, you know, what the competition formats look like, how do we engage with schools, how do we engage with the schools associations across the UK as well, and make sure it's all joined up. So yes is the answer. I think Scott did a great piece of work taking those primary and secondary school resources forward, along with Chris Moss from Welsh Athletics, going back 6 or 7 years in a previous role I had. Those two led that piece of work. But it is probably the right time to review and refresh, and that was discussed at a recent development working group as well.
So in lockdown as well, it's worth mentioning that Scott put that material online. So we've actually now got an online offer to teachers. But like all coaching courses, qualifications, CPD, it needs to be continually reviewed. So I'm sure that will be looked at. But yeah, there is a really good offer online, split into either a package for schools or event group. So they can take throws as a unit and do throws, or they can take jumps as a unit and do jumps, or running as a unit and do running. And that can be broken down for each particular school.
Okay, we've also got a question here from Mike again. Let me read this. I'm reading this for the first time, observation or a question. Major conundrum for club coaches of young athletes. When they reach 18, they go to university, usually never to return. So how does a club coach develop at senior level? I don't think there's ever been there. I don't think there's an immediate answer. Any observations on that one, Mark, please?
Can you just read? Sorry, I'll maybe try and get it up. I'm just trying to listen to you. That was actually part question. Was it kind of felt? Yeah,
major conundrum for club coaches of young athletes. When they reach 18, they go to university, usually never to return. So how does a club coach continue to develop at senior levels? So it's that perennial issue we have in the sport of dropout around 17, 18, 19, and then a coach is left thinking, crikey, I could have taken that athlete through the whole pathway, if you like. So real conundrum. Any thoughts? I guess there are a few parts to that response.
I guess that, you know, as well as coaching development, I guess we're looking at athlete development and the development of talent within athletics and how it fits across the talent programs and athletes that move for learning as well. I think just with a coaching kind of head on, just with young athletes who become coaches or could become coaches, I think it's hugely important within the club environment that we do educate coaches at a young age as possible, whether that's 15, 16, 17. And yes, they may move away. And I guess the conundrum for clubs is, will they come back? Do they ever come back? I guess with an NGB hat on, you hope we can entice them, whether they move, to continue to coach in another area, so that knowledge is not lost and benefits the sport. I guess with any club environment, succession planning is key. So it's hugely important clubs look at that succession plan and how to develop coaches through. The athlete conundrum in terms of athletes progressing once they move off, I think comes down to, again, good communication between clubs and institutions, or clubs and national level coaches if they're on the talent pathway, and what that transition looks like, and how do you keep the communication going between coaches and athletes, and coaches and wherever the athlete's moving to, and things like that. So I'm not sure if I've answered the question there, Chris, but that's certainly my immediate thoughts, just kind of reading that.
Martin, anything to add there? I was thinking about university hubs, the talent hubs, and how we continue to keep that connectivity, thinking about Joe's hub evolution model. I know we only have the 2 pilots at the moment, but if the strategy continues into 2022, perhaps this is another aspect of the hub strategy we need to consider.
Absolutely. I think tie up communication and the potential of those hubs, and also our university charter mark. These are universities that sit, if you like, outside of the current 2 pilot hubs. But if that was to expand, we could still have universities with a charter mark that say they're in partnership with athletics. But that communication is vital, so that if an athlete goes from their club-based coach to the university, that there is ongoing communication. One, so that university-based coach knows where this athlete has come from, knows what training motivations that athlete's had, but also that athlete is going to go back to that club environment or to another club environment. And, the university career, 3, 4, 5 years, 6 years in a few courses, we need as a sport to ensure that those transitions are really well managed. And the hub, where the hub ties in, is that actually, and university charter marks, we can actually have an influence over those hubs and the coaches operating at those universities, so that this transition is better managed than maybe it has been in the past. So we can really enforce, if you like, that communication.
And competition planning has never featured in the coach education curriculum. Any plans for this? Really good point there from Mike around the alignment between coach ed and competition, and where we go with that. I know there was a reference earlier to event-specific competition, and I know Mark has mentioned event-specific coaching development there. Anything you'd like to say on that, Mark?
Yeah, I think I'll answer the question in a second, but I think we need to, when we're planning across the sport and we're looking at event-specific strategies, we need to look at what the athlete development framework model is. We need to look at how that would reflect impact on what the coaching roles are and the coaching model looks like, but also then what the competition program looks like. So I think they're all interlinked, and I think this is the first time in a long time we've had those conversations and that kind of cross-fertilization across all these areas to make sure that UKA and the forum countries are looking at and planning accordingly. To answer your question there, the answer is yes, it must be. And I guess one of the things that have come back to us regularly as feedback is the education needs to be as real as possible for the coaches, so it adds value to their coaching. So, how do you plan for competitions with athletes? How do you peak, etc.? And I guess that will vary depending on the coaching role. So if you're talking about a children's coach, that's going to be completely different from when we start talking about event-specific talent performance roles within there as well. And I guess, other things that have been fed back to me over the years as well, just things like, coaches working with children in clubs that under 12, they're kind of sometimes herding cats. So again, how do you manage numbers? How do you give practical solutions to coaches so they can be better equipped going into those environments? So all these things are on the table, and when we look at them, we absolutely need to make sure it's incorporated so it enhances that coach learning and develops those skills and experiences so that they are better equipped going out into the field.
Martin, anything to add there?
It's a gaping hole in the qualifications, as Mark has said. The fact that competition planning isn't in there, and absolutely, how many is a good number of competitions for a particular event, for a particular athlete at a particular age, depending on their particular motivations. The coach and the athlete and the parents have to work out what that is, but unless that coach is led through that process and given a variety of options based on the athlete development model, looking at the competition season and what's available and the targets. They're not going to be able to make that sort of strategic decision as this athlete progresses through their career. So yeah, Mike, it's a key hole in the qualifications, and we've patched it a little bit through home country CPD, but it absolutely should be in there, and I know Mark's got it on the agenda.
Okay, thanks both. Time for more questions. We've got just over 10 minutes left, so any questions? I see hi Moira Gallagher, nice to see you there, alongside Mick, Danny, Jim, Mike. Any further questions? James? Okay. Is anyone typing? It's the suspense that does you.
I think, Chris, what I would add, if there's no more questions at this point, if anyone does think of any questions, then please don't hesitate to get in touch with us. Obviously, you've got Martin's details already, but feel free to drop me a line with anything, or pick anything up around the coaching strategy work, anything like that at all. So please do so.
Is Mark M. Munro at britishathletics.org.uk, yeah?
It is indeed.
It's in the chat box. There you are.
No hiding now.
Fire tonight. Okay. Anything that you would like to say in conclusion, Martin or Mark, as our coaching experts? I think we've got through quite a lot there in nearly 50 minutes, and conscious that some people might be joining other webinars shortly, or London Council in Mick's case. Any other thoughts at all?
I'd just like to say I'll see everybody at a competition. You know, the product, if you like, of or one of the products certainly of coaching, and yeah, I look forward to getting out on a track and also a few trail races and fell races through the summer.
Yeah, just from me to reiterate the thanks to everyone involved in putting on competitions at this moment in time. I mentioned that number of nearly 300 domestic competitions that have been licensed since take place from April onwards. And that, you know, whilst we might not have the alignment right between coaching and competition at this moment in time, systematically, there's a lot of choice out there for people, whatever background, age, ability, aspiration. There's a lot of competition on out there, and that wouldn't be possible without the work of volunteers and, of course, coaches to prepare athletes to compete. And we've recently announced details of our combined events championships, our first outdoor championships of the summer, followed by the 20s, 23s, with the entry criteria there. We're obviously restricted somewhat by the ability for the host venue to accommodate large numbers like we normally would. But we're hoping for a relatively normal summer program at a national level. And I know that let's hope we continue on that roadmap as we would want. But thank you for everything that you're doing. Mark, I'm going to give you the final word, I think, as our development director for the sport UK wide. Any other final thoughts?
Just on the coaching strategy work and how that goes forward, we have a great opportunity. We have a window of opportunity to get it right. So please feed in and be a part of that process and help us get it right. So that's all I'll say. Thank
you, Mark. And I'm conscious Emma Davenport's been on this call. Panicking now. She thinks I'm going to put you on the spot. Is there anything you want to say as our head of club support and participation? I know some of the conversation has focused possibly further up the pathway, some around schools and clubs and what we're doing with young athletes coming into the sport entry level. Anything that you'd like to say, signpost to club support managers or anything?
Yeah, I guess bringing it to coaching in the first instance, we, you know, the support's there to help develop coaches, new coaches. You know, it was referenced before, the parents, the ex-athletes, maybe some of the young volunteers that are, you know, that could come and help as, you know, coaching assistant once they get old enough. You know, the LERF qualifications feeding into to run together, and then clubs. You know, the pathway then of the phonetics bolt-on for that programme to coaches and curves. Martin alluded to it, you know, club run, we're about to go back out to applications for that. Track nights will go back out. So that low level support of that intro to coaching, because often that's where, you know, we need the masses at the bottom of the pyramid. So, and the club support managers are there to help. So I know that some of the clubs that have bid in this club support fund round and the previous one have asked for funding towards coaching qualifications, which I know for some clubs can make the difference between having not enough and enough if they can part fund off funds from coaching qualifications. So just to say to reach out to your club support managers, really, they're here to help you on the ground, and they'll link back into the RCLs and then the EGLs in that pathway.
Thank you. We'll put a link into the box in due course to our club support managers. Their details are all available on the England Athletics website, and we hope that's useful for you. So without further ado, with 8 minutes to 7, there are no further questions. We will say good night and wish you all well. We are back in a couple of months' time, and I don't actually have the date in front of me at this moment in time, the theme, but we will put that into the communication that comes out with these slides after the webinar. But thank you for everything you're doing, and go well, stay safe, all the best.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.